You were drawn here because the ultimate shift is already unfolding. As this audiobook opens, you'll understand why it has begun. Not through striving, but through recognition. Listen closely and allow what has always been true to surface now. The Ultimate Shift. Introduction. The ultimate shift does not arrive with thunder or command. It moves through you quietly, like a hidden current beneath still water, present long before you noticed it. What awakens now is not learning, but remembering. A soft recognition rises within you, as though an ancient truth has finally been spoken in a language your soul understands. You have searched, reached, and strained, believing fulfillment lay somewhere ahead. Yet in the stilling of effort, you begin to see. Nothing was ever missing. The universe has never demanded your labor, only your awareness. As a flawless mirror, it reflects not your wishes, but your state of being, responding faithfully to the consciousness you inhabit. Across ages and civilizations, this wisdom has endured. True change is born not from gathering more, but from releasing what never belonged to you. When resistance loosens its grip, abundance is revealed as your natural condition, emerging effortlessly, like light when clouds dissolve. You are not asked to transform into something greater, only to uncover what has always been whole. The shift reveals itself in the silent spaces, between thoughts, beneath words, within the pause you so often rush past. It is sensed when striving fades, when old beliefs soften and fall away, no longer upheld by fear or habit. In that quiet, something ancient breathes again. You stand now at a moment of recognition. The passage has already been crossed, though the mind may still look for a door. This is not the creation of a new destiny, but alignment with the living truth of this moment. The ultimate shift is not approaching. It is unfolding now, within the sacred awareness you carry. Let these words settle gently, not as ideas to grasp, but as echoes of what you have always known. The wisdom you seek does not come from afar. It rises from within you, timeless and familiar, as the very essence of who you are. Before we get into the book, comment, "I am ready," to affirm your intention to the universe. Part 1. The Remembering. Chapter 1. The Quiet Signal. In a small mountain village, Clara spent her days pushing against life itself. Each morning she would rise before dawn, meticulously planning every detail, believing that through sheer force of will she could bend circumstances to her desires. She carried a notebook filled with endless lists and schedules, her shoulders tense with the weight of constant effort. One autumn morning, exhausted from her perpetual striving, Clara collapsed beside an ancient well. As she sat there, a soft breeze stirred the leaves around her, and she noticed how they danced without struggle. In that moment, something within her surrendered. She closed her notebook and simply breathed, feeling the sun warm her face. To her amazement, the very things she had fought so hard to achieve began flowing into her life with unexpected ease. When you release the grip of effort, you discover the natural current that has always carried you. The universe responds not to force, but to frequency, to the quiet vibration of your being. Like a pond settling after the ripples fade, clarity emerges in stillness. This is the foundational truth. Feeling is the language through which creation expresses itself. Your emotional state broadcasts a constant signal, drawing experiences that match its essence. When inner certainty replaces anxious striving, the outer world rearranges itself accordingly. This is not magic, but mathematics, the precise calculation of resonance finding its match. In a distant valley lived Daisy, who had never read a book about manifestation. Each evening as she washed dishes, she would hum softly, taking simple pleasure in the warmth of the water and the gleam of clean plates. Without realizing it, she had discovered the secret of effortless attraction. Her small contentment acted as a magnet, drawing unexpected gifts and opportunities. People were naturally drawn to her kitchen, where joy seemed to bloom like wildflowers. The truth whispers in these stories. Harmony needs no announcement. It moves like water finding its course, neither forcing nor resisting. Your natural state of abundance reveals itself not through struggle but through alignment. To embrace this wisdom, find a quiet moment and settle into your breath. Let your body soften, releasing the tension of trying. Feel how safety blooms in surrender. Watch as the day unfolds without your corrections, responding instead to the signal of your calm presence. This ancient practice requires nothing from you but allowance, a gentle recognition that what you seek has always sought you in return. Chapter 2. The Inner Yes. The mountain mist clings to the valleys before you as you witness Oliver's tale unfold. Each dawn he would stand at his window, watching life pass by, waiting for some external signal that would grant him permission to truly begin living. His shelves groaned under the weight of unopened books. His art supplies remained sealed in their packages, and his heart's whispers grew fainter with each passing season. You recognize this hesitation, for it dwells in the spaces between your own desires and their fulfillment. The truth emerges like sunlight through morning fog. Manifestation flows not from permission granted, but from agreement already present within you. When you align with what you know to be true, the universe simply mirrors your inner certainty. The law of attraction speaks through this timeless wisdom. Resistance is merely consent, delayed by doubt. Each time you wait for circumstances to approve your path, you postpone the very alignment that would manifest your desires. Your power lies not in convincing the world, but in recognizing what you have already accepted as truth. In a distant valley, Eleanor understood this principle without naming it. While others demanded proof before peace, she chose peace before proof. She tended her garden without guarantees of harvest, painted without promise of acclaim, and loved without assurance of return. Her life became a living testament to the power of prior agreement. One day, a traveler asked Eleanor the secret of her contentment. She smiled and gestured to the blooming flowers around her. "I stopped asking the seeds to prove they would become flowers," she said. "I simply agreed with their nature, and the blooming followed naturally." So it is with all creation. When you find that quiet place of agreement within yourself, external permission becomes unnecessary. The world simply responds to the consensus you have already reached with your own heart. Practice. Sit quietly and bring to mind something you deeply desire. Rather than seeking validation or permission, simply notice where you already agree with this desire in your heart. Feel how your body responds to this inner acceptance. Let this sensation of agreement fill you completely, requiring no proof or external confirmation. This is the frequency of pure creation, the quiet yes that precedes all manifestation. Chapter 3. The Still Center. I stopped asking the flowers to prove they would bloom. I simply agreed with their nature. Her garden flourished, not because she convinced it to grow, but because she aligned with its inherent tendency toward abundance. In this truth lies the essence of manifestation. What you resist persists precisely because resistance itself is a form of delayed acceptance. When you withhold your yes from life, you create the very gap you seek to bridge. The universe cannot override your inner hesitation with external evidence. It can only reflect the quality of your agreement or disagreement with what is. Margaret's story emerges from the mists of time as another reflection of this principle. In her endless pursuit of certainty, she filled notebooks with plans and possibilities, creating elaborate strategies for every conceivable outcome. Her mind spun like a wheel in sand, generating motion without progress. Each thought spawned 10 more, until her desires became buried under the weight of analysis. Her energy scattered across countless potential paths, while the simple route of alignment remained untaken. Yet wisdom arrives in unexpected moments. In the depths of winter, Harold, a master craftsman, stood before his workbench, hands poised above his tools. For years, he had forced solutions, pushed through obstacles, demanded answers. But on this day, something shifted. He paused, letting his hands rest at his sides. In that space of surrender, clarity arose like a spring from still earth. The solution he had chased revealed itself effortlessly, not because he had finally thought his way to it, but because he had stopped pursuing it altogether. The truth shimmers in these stories like moonlight on water. Alignment precedes manifestation. When you release the need to orchestrate every detail, to know every step before beginning, you enter the flow of natural creation. Your yes becomes a tuning fork, resonating with possibilities that were always present, but obscured by effort. Practice. Find a quiet space and settle into stillness. Rest your attention gently in the center of your chest, as though listening to a distant song. Let thoughts arise and pass like clouds in a vast sky, requiring neither engagement nor correction. This is not a doing, but a allowing, not a reaching, but a resting in what already is. In this space of neutral awareness, feel how life aligns naturally with your inner agreement. Chapter 4. Trust before evidence. In a village high in the ancient mountains, Lillian spent her days searching the skies for omens and studying tea leaves for glimpses of what might come. Each morning she would pause at her doorway, scanning the horizon for signs that today would bring the changes she yearned for. When clouds gathered, she wondered if they heralded fortune. When birds soared overhead, she questioned if their flight patterns held secret messages. Her life became an endless interpretation of symbols, each moment heavy with the weight of what it might mean, rather than what it was. The universe speaks in whispers, not because it guards its secrets, but because truth requires no announcement. Your natural state is one of knowing, not hoping. When you find yourself constantly seeking signs, you have temporarily forgotten that you are the sign you seek. The very act of searching creates the illusion of distance between you and what you desire. Belief is not a fragile thing to be protected or proved. It is simply familiarity with what is true. When you truly know something, you no longer require evidence. You do not wake each morning questioning if gravity will hold you to the earth. You do not wonder if your heart will continue its rhythm. This same certainty belongs to all that you are calling into your experience. In a marketplace across the valley lived Walter, a merchant whose smile preceded him wherever he went. He smiled not because life had given him reason, but because joy was his natural language. He did not wait for circumstances to grant him permission for happiness. Instead, life seemed to arrange itself around his unchanging warmth. Customers found their way to his modest shop without advertisement. Opportunities appeared without pursuit. His prosperity flowed not from strategy, but from the unwavering certainty he carried. Walter's experience reflects a fundamental truth. The universe responds not to what you hope for, but to what you know. Trust is not a conclusion you reach after gathering enough evidence. It is a state of being that precedes all evidence. When you truly trust, you no longer require proof, because you recognize that proof follows trust, never the other way around. The wisdom hidden in these tales points to a singular truth. Certainty is not something you achieve. It is something you remember. You were born knowing how to be. The doubt that seems to delay your good is not native to your nature. It is learned, and therefore can be unlearned. Ancient practice. Settle into a quiet space and bring to mind something you desire to experience. Rather than reaching toward it as a future possibility, feel how ordinary it would be once realized. Let your breath flow easily as you sense the naturalness of having what you seek. Notice how this desired experience would fit seamlessly into your daily life, as normal as the sun rising. Stay with this feeling of familiarity until you can sense how this outcome is simply an extension of who you already are. This is not an exercise in convincing yourself, but in recognizing what your being already knows to be true. Chapter 5. The Gentle Decision. In a seaside town that rested between ocean and hills, Frank spent his days caught in the space between possibilities. Each morning brought a fresh set of options that seemed to paralyze rather than empower him. Should he take the path along the shore or through the woods? Should he greet the day with meditation or movement? Even the smallest decisions became labyrinths of analysis, each choice spawning endless branches of what-ifs that tangled his thoughts until the day itself slipped away unexplored. The universe does not require your perfect analysis to respond. It awaits only your gentle nod in any direction. When you stand at the crossroads of infinite possibility, it is not wisdom but choice that transforms potential into experience. The moment you lean into any path, even softly, the entire field of creation begins to organize around your decision. Your power lies not in finding the absolute right choice, but in making any choice absolutely right through your commitment to it. The universe mirrors back not the perfection of your decisions, but the clarity of your alignment with them. What appears as indecision is often simply resistance to your own authority as a creator. In the same town lived Mabel, who ran a small flower shop. Each morning she would select blooms for her window display, not through careful calculation, but through gentle inclination. "These peonies wish to be seen today," she would say, or "the roses are asking to stand beside the lavender." Her choices flowed from a place of quiet knowing rather than strategic planning. Yet customers would often exclaim how the very flowers they needed seemed to be waiting for them in her window. Through Mabel's soft decisions, life arranged itself with an ease that analysis could never achieve. She did not force her choices or demand guarantees. Instead, she allowed her natural preferences to guide her, trusting that clarity would unfold from commitment rather than precede it. This, then, is your invitation. To recognize that clarity emerges not from endless contemplation, but from gentle choice, followed by unwavering alignment. The universe responds not to your perfect decisions, but to your peaceful commitment to the path you choose. Ancient practice, the choice of peace. Find a quiet moment and settle into stillness. Notice the questions that occupy your thoughts, the decisions that await your attention. Rather than analyzing each possible outcome, simply choose peace. Let this be your practice. Whenever you encounter a choice, select the option that brings the most peace to your heart. Trust that from this foundation of tranquility, all other choices will naturally align. The wisdom you seek lies not in endless analysis, but in the quiet certainty of your own knowing. Chapter 6. Emotional Gravity. In a valley where mist clung to ancient stone walls, Ruth carried emotion like a heavy burden. Each morning she would press down her fears, tuck away her joys, and smooth her face into careful neutrality. "Feelings must be managed," she would whisper, reinforcing the walls she had built against her own heart. The universe operates through resonance, not resistance. When you dam the natural flow of emotion, you create stagnation in the field of infinite possibility. Your feelings are not obstacles to transcend, but messengers carrying the very frequency of creation. Each sensation that moves through you is energy-seeking expression, a living current that connects you to the stream of manifestation. The art of allowing lies not in controlling emotion, but in recognizing it as the language through which the universe speaks. When sadness arrives, it carries the seeds of joy. When fear surfaces, it points toward courage. Every feeling is an invitation to expand, to know yourself more fully, to align with the natural rhythm of becoming. In a bustling marketplace, Benny received news that would have once sent him spiraling into worry. Instead, an unexpected laugh bubbled up from his chest. The sound surprised him, clear and bright against the morning air. As his laughter lifted, the weight of circumstance seemed to lift with it. In that moment of lightness, solutions appeared that tension had obscured. His spontaneous joy revealed a truth often forgotten. Emotion need not be serious to be significant. Sometimes the greatest shifts occur when we allow ourselves to move with rather than against the energy flowing through us. Your feelings are not barriers between you and your desires. They are the very bridge. Each emotion carries a specific vibration, a unique signature that attracts corresponding experiences. When you welcome rather than wage war with your feelings, you align with the natural law of resonance. Ancient practice, the river of sensation. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Notice whatever emotion is present without trying to change it. Place your hand on your heart and imagine this feeling as pure energy moving through you like a river. Don't label it as good or bad. Simply experience its motion. Let it flow without resistance for several minutes. This practice reveals emotion as energy in motion, teaching your system that all feelings are welcome messengers in the dance of creation. Chapter 7. The Inner Environment. In a secluded mountain village, a woman named Alice spent her days rearranging furniture, changing curtains, and shifting ornaments, believing that if she could just find the perfect arrangement, peace would follow. She painted walls in calming colors and placed crystals at precise angles, yet the restlessness within her remained unchanged. Each new configuration brought momentary satisfaction before the familiar discontent returned. Your emotional sphere creates the true atmosphere of your life. The outer world merely reflects the climate you maintain within. When you understand this truth, you realize that no amount of external adjustment can alter your experience until you shift the feeling tone that permeates your being. Your emotions are not reactions to circumstances, but the very substance from which circumstances are formed. The universe responds not to your actions, but to the resonance you carry. Each feeling is a frequency, broadcasting continuous signals into the field of infinite possibility. When you resist emotion, you create interference in this natural broadcasting system. The power lies not in controlling feelings, but in allowing them to flow through you, understanding that they are the raw material of manifestation. In the marketplace of the same village lived Norman, a merchant whose stall was the smallest and least adorned. Yet customers were drawn to his space, not for its appearance, but for the peaceful atmosphere that seemed to emanate from within him. Whether in sunshine or rain, in profit or loss, Norman maintained an inner warmth that transformed his simple corner into a haven of tranquility. His secret was not in his surroundings, but in his unwavering appreciation for life itself. Norman's story reveals a fundamental truth. Your emotional state creates your reality, not the other way around. He had discovered that contentment is not found in perfect circumstances, but in perfect acceptance of what is. His presence proved that location, condition, and situation hold no power compared to the inner climate you cultivate. The timeless practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into your current space, exactly as it is. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing each breath to carry appreciation into the ordinary moments of your life. Feel gratitude for the air that fills your lungs, the ground beneath your feet, the simple miracle of existence. Let this appreciation flow naturally, without forcing or directing it. This practice reveals that the atmosphere you seek is already within you, waiting to be acknowledged. As you breathe appreciation into each moment, you align with the natural state of abundance that is your birthright. Chapter 8. Releasing the Push. In a bustling marketplace stood a merchant named Edith who believed success required constant pushing. From dawn until dusk, she would rush between stalls, calling out to passers-by, thrusting her wares forward with desperate energy. The harder she tried, the more people seemed to turn away. Her shoulders grew tense, her voice strained, and still abundance eluded her grasp. The universe speaks in whispers, not shouts. When you strain toward manifestation, you create resistance to the very flow you seek to capture. Your effort, born of fear that things won't unfold naturally, becomes the very force that repels what you desire. The law of attraction responds not to the intensity of your wanting, but to the quality of your being. Notice how nature accomplishes everything without forcing. The flower does not strain to bloom. It opens in perfect timing. The river does not push against rocks, it flows around them. This same effortless power flows through you when you release the habit of forcing outcomes. In the quiet hills above the marketplace lived Leo, a potter who worked with unhurried movements. His hands shaped clay with gentle attention, never forcing the material but sensing its natural inclination. People were drawn to his workshop without invitation, mesmerized by the peace that surrounded him. His wares sold easily, though he never called out or pushed. His success flowed from his state of relaxed allowance. What Leo understood was that ease is magnetic. When you release the grip of trying, you enter a state of natural attraction. Your energy becomes inviting rather than demanding. The universe responds not to what you chase, but to what you embody. This truth lives within you already. The moment you soften your grip on outcomes, life begins to flow with unexpected grace. Your role is not to force the river, but to align with its current. Let this wisdom settle into your bones. Success courts the one who has made peace with where they stand. Ancient practice, the release. Find a quiet moment and bring awareness to any sensation of pushing or striving in your body. Notice where you hold tension in your pursuit of goals. Now, deliberately loosen each area of tightness, letting your breath soften any urgency. Feel how natural it is to simply be, without forcing what comes next. Practice this release throughout your day, especially when the impulse to strain arises. Let life meet you in your surrender. Chapter 9. Familiar Joy. In a village nestled among ancient hills, Grace spent her days searching for happiness. She collected treasures, pursued achievements, and chased experiences, each promising the elation she sought. Yet with every attainment, joy remained elusive, slipping through her fingers like morning mist. Her quest consumed her until exhaustion led her to rest beneath an old olive tree, where she noticed a simple contentment in just being still. The universe speaks through feeling. What you seek has never left. It dwells within as your natural state. Joy is not a destination to reach, but a frequency to remember, a signal already broadcasting from the depths of your being. When you align with this inherent wavelength, life responds by reflecting more reasons to rejoice. Your emotional state is the clearest indication of alignment with universal flow. What feels good naturally attracts more of itself, not because you have earned it, but because like frequencies resonate and amplify. This is why forcing happiness never succeeds. Authentic joy cannot be manufactured or pursued. It emerges spontaneously when you release resistance to what already is. In a marketplace across the valley lived Paul, a potter who worked with clay. While others rushed to acquire more, he found delight in shaping each vessel, losing himself in the smooth texture beneath his fingers. He smiled at customers, savored his simple meals, and hummed while walking home in the evening. Without seeking anything beyond the present moment, Paul's life grew increasingly rich. More clients were drawn to his peaceful presence. Unexpected gifts appeared at his door, and opportunities arose effortlessly. His story mirrors a fundamental truth. Joy attracts joy. When you appreciate what exists now, you broadcast a signal of abundance that the universe must match. Your natural state of well-being acts as a magnet, drawing circumstances that resonate with that frequency. The key is not to chase happiness, but to notice where it already resides within ordinary moments. The remembrance practice. Settle into a quiet space and bring attention to something in your present experience that already feels good. Perhaps the warmth of sunlight, a comfortable chair, or the rhythm of your breath. Let yourself savor this simple pleasure without needing it to be more than it is. Notice how appreciation naturally expands when given permission to simply be. This is the signal that calls forth more reasons for joy. Chapter 10. The First Shift. In a quiet corner of her garden, Helen tended to her flowers each morning, moving through her familiar routine. One day she noticed how the roses seemed more vibrant, the air sweeter, the light softer. These weren't dramatic changes, merely gentle shifts in her perception. Yet, as she acknowledged each small difference, more began to surface. The birds sang more frequently near her window, kind strangers smiled more readily, and opportunities appeared with surprising ease. The law of attraction responds to recognition. When you notice the subtle ways life aligns with your desires, you strengthen the bridge between thought and manifestation. Your awareness acts as a gentle magnifying glass, bringing into focus the countless ways the universe already supports you. This is not about forcing change, but about witnessing the natural unfoldment already in motion. Each moment of recognition sends a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive more. Like droplets of water gradually filling a vessel, these small acknowledgments build momentum. The shift occurs not in the wanting, but in the witnessing. When you train your attention to spot the evidence of alignment, you discover it has always been present. In a bustling marketplace, Arthur observed how his business had gradually transformed. Instead of dismissing the small improvements as coincidence, he began naming them aloud. This is evidence of growth. This is abundance in action. With each recognition, these positive changes seemed to stabilize and expand. His simple act of acknowledgement became a powerful force of attraction. This story mirrors your own journey. The changes you seek are already in motion, waiting to be noticed. By acknowledging the subtle shifts, a moment of unexpected peace, a fortunate timing, a helpful encounter, you strengthen their presence in your experience. Recognition is not merely observation. It is active participation in the creation of your reality. Ancient practice of recognition. Set aside a few moments each evening to acknowledge 3 subtle positive changes in your day. They need not be dramatic, perhaps a moment of perfect timing, a pleasant interaction, or a small sign of progress. Speak them aloud or write them down, treating each as evidence of the universe's response to your desires. This simple practice of recognition creates a bridge between your inner knowing and outer experience, allowing more of what you notice to naturally expand. Part 2. The Deepening. Chapter 11. Resonant Identity. In a small village beneath ancient hills, a woman named Irene stood before her mirror each morning, studying her reflection with uncertainty. Though her life flowed with grace and her endeavors bore fruit, she questioned the changes unfolding within her. This peace, this quiet knowing, is this truly who I am becoming? She would whisper to her reflection. The universe speaks through your experience of yourself. Each thought you hold about your nature acts as a signal, drawing circumstances that match your self-concept. This is not about crafting a new identity, but recognizing the truth of who you have always been. When you question your evolving awareness, you stand at the threshold of expansion. Your self-concept is the foundation upon which all manifestation builds. It is not your thoughts about yourself that shape your reality, but your felt sense of being. The universe responds not to who you think you should be, but to who you know yourself to be in the depths of your quiet moments. As you align with your natural state of well-being, life begins to reflect this alignment without effort. Your outer world reorganizes itself to match your inner knowing. This is why forcing change creates resistance, while allowing yourself to expand brings effortless transformation. In the bustling marketplace, Calvin moved through his day with an air of natural prosperity. He had not achieved success through striving, but through embodying the ease he felt within. His presence reminded others of their own innate abundance. Those around him often found their own circumstances improving, though Calvin never spoke of manifestation or attraction. He simply lived in alignment with his nature. Calvin's story mirrors a universal truth. When you rest in self-recognition, life reflects your inner state. His experience shows that transformation flows not from becoming someone new, but from allowing yourself to be who you already are. The invitation before you is to recognize that your expanding awareness is not a departure from yourself, but a return to your essential nature. As you settle into this recognition, the outer forms of your life naturally align with your inner truth. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment and close your eyes. Rather than visualizing a future state, allow yourself to feel the natural alignment that already exists within you. Notice how your body knows this state of being. Let this feeling permeate your awareness until it becomes familiar, like remembering something you've always known. Rest here, allowing life to reflect this recognition. Chapter 12. Beyond Wanting. Along a winding path through an ancient marketplace, Dorothy moved with restless energy, her eyes darting from stall to stall. Her desire for beautiful things burned like a flame, consuming her attention. With each object she yearned for, an invisible wall seemed to rise between her and her wishes. The more intensely she wanted, the more distant her desires felt. Within this eternal dance of creation, wanting creates a peculiar paradox. When you fixate on what you lack, you broadcast the frequency of absence into the universe. Your awareness of what is missing becomes the very force that maintains the distance between you and your desires. This is not a judgment, but a gentle observation of how energy flows. The law of attraction responds not to your wishes, but to your state of being. When your consciousness dwells in emptiness, emptiness must persist. Yet when you shift into the vibration of havingness, of already possessing what you desire, the universe can only respond with more of the same. This is the sacred mathematics of manifestation. In a quiet corner of the same marketplace, Samuel sat contentedly at his modest table of wares. Unlike others who anxiously counted their coins, he emanated an air of peaceful sufficiency. He knew, with unshakable certainty, that abundance was his natural state. Customers were drawn to his tranquil presence, and his business flourished without strain. The universe mirrors your inner state with perfect precision. When you rest in the feeling of enough, more flows naturally. This is not about denying desires, but about transforming your relationship with them. Instead of reaching from emptiness, you allow from fullness. Your natural state is complete. The moment you recognize this truth, external circumstances begin their graceful reorganization, around this new center of gravity. Fulfillment attracts fulfillment. Abundance recognizes abundance, and wholeness calls to wholeness. The ancient practice of present fulfillment. Close your eyes and settle into this moment. Feel the completeness that exists right now, independent of external conditions. Let your breath fill you with the awareness that you lack nothing essential. Notice how your body already knows this truth. Allow this sense of sufficiency to permeate your being, recognizing it as your natural state. Rest here for several minutes, letting life respond to your recognition of inherent wholeness. Chapter 13. The Language of Feeling. In a grand library filled with countless volumes, Mildred sat surrounded by dictionaries and thesauruses, carefully selecting each word for her intentions. She meticulously crafted affirmations, analyzing every syllable and nuance. Yet the more she polished her phrases, the more artificial they felt, like ornate frames around empty spaces. The universe does not respond to words. It knows only the language of vibration, the subtle currents of feeling that flow beneath your thoughts. When you attempt to craft perfect phrases while disconnected from their emotional essence, you speak in a tongue foreign to the creative force that shapes reality. Your power lies not in the precision of language, but in the resonance of your being. The universe responds to the feeling tone that emanates from your consciousness. Words are merely vessels, and like all vessels, they can only carry what you pour into them. When your emotional frequency aligns with what you desire, words become unnecessary adornments to what is already in motion. This truth runs deeper than most realize. Every thought carries a vibrational signature, but it is not the thought itself that attracts. It is the feeling quality beneath it. When you attune yourself to this subtle layer of experience, you begin to communicate directly with the creative force of life itself. Eugene, a quiet gardener, rarely spoke of his intentions, yet, as he worked with his plants, a peaceful contentment radiated from his presence. His garden flourished not because he knew the right words to say, but because his very being sang in harmony with growth and abundance. Without conscious effort, his emotional state broadcasted a clear signal that life eagerly answered. The wisdom in Eugene's approach reveals a fundamental truth. Alignment precedes articulation. When you first find the feeling place of what you desire, the right words arise naturally, if they are needed at all. They flow from presence rather than calculation, carrying the authentic vibration of your aligned state. The ancient practice of emotional attunement. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Notice the feeling atmosphere within you without trying to change it. Like adjusting a radio dial with infinite gentleness, allow your emotional tone to shift naturally toward peace. Don't force or direct. Simply permit the subtle frequencies of your being to find their natural harmony. Rest in this practice until you sense the delicate balance of being both active and receptive, letting your emotional signature become clear and coherent. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. Alignment over Action. In a bustling marketplace, Bernice rushed from stall to stall, her arms laden with baskets and bundles. From dawn until dusk she moved without ceasing, believing that constant motion would bring her closer to abundance. Yet with each passing day, her energy waned while her desires remained distant, like stars she could see but never touch. The universe speaks through the quiet voice of alignment. When your actions spring from scattered thoughts and anxious energy, they create ripples of exhaustion rather than waves of manifestation. True power flows not from endless doing, but from movement that emerges from inner harmony. Notice how nature operates. A tree does not strain to grow, nor does a river force its path. Their movement arises from an innate knowing, a deep attunement to the rhythm of life itself. This is the essence of aligned action, not a frenzied dance of perpetual motion, but a graceful response to the silent call of timing. The difference lies not in the action itself, but in its source. When movement springs from resistance or fear, it depletes. When it flows from alignment, it energizes. Your body knows this truth. Feel how strain creates tension, while inspired action brings vitality. In a small workshop at the edge of town, Chester crafted beautiful furniture. Unlike others who rushed their work, he would sit quietly with each piece of wood, feeling its grain, understanding its nature. Some days he would simply observe, making no cuts, taking no action. Then, when the moment felt right, he would work with such natural precision that the wood seemed to shape itself beneath his hands. His creations became known throughout the land, not for the speed of their making, but for the harmony they carried within them. People said his chairs held comfort in their very frame. His tables gathered joy around them. Chester's secret was simple. He waited until action and inspiration became one. This mirrors the deeper truth of manifestation. When you align first, action becomes effortless. The doing flows from being, and results appear with surprising ease. Your task is not to force outcomes through endless activity, but to attune yourself to the natural current of creation. Practice. Sit quietly each morning before beginning your day. Place your hands on your lap, palms upward in a gesture of receptivity. Breathe deeply and ask within, "What is ready to move through me today?" Wait until you feel a gentle pull of inspiration or a clear sense of timing. Let your actions arise from this place of inner guidance rather than external pressure. This practice aligns your movement with the natural flow of manifestation, ensuring that each action carries the full power of universal support. Chapter 15. Receiving State. In the quiet hills beyond the city walls, Agnes toiled endlessly in her garden. Each morning she would rise before dawn, determined to cultivate every bloom through sheer determination. When neighbors offered help, she politely declined. When rain clouds gathered, she erected elaborate coverings, believing she alone must protect her flowers. Even as her back ached and her hands grew weary, Agnes refused assistance, convinced that accepting help meant weakness. The universe speaks through gentle whispers, and the art of receiving requires an open heart. Your ability to welcome abundance determines how fully it flows into your life. Like a vessel that must be empty to be filled, your willingness to receive creates space for blessings to enter. When you resist support, you unknowingly block the natural flow of universal energy. The law of attraction responds not just to your desires, but to your capacity for acceptance. Each time you deflect assistance, decline support, or insist on struggling alone, you broadcast a signal of resistance that echoes through the fabric of creation. The wisdom traditions speak of surrender not as passive resignation, but as active alignment with the abundance that surrounds you. Your resistance to receiving often stems from ancient patterns, Beliefs that suggest you must earn every blessing through struggle, that accepting help diminishes your worth, that independence means isolation. Yet the universe operates through interconnection. Every flower receives sunlight, every stream accepts rain, every star welcomes the vast expanse of space that holds it. Your capacity to receive mirrors nature's endless cycle of giving and accepting. In a small village by the sea, Leonard lived simply but fully. Unlike Agnes, he moved through life with open hands and an accepting heart. When fishermen offered their daily catch, he received with gratitude. When storms prevented his work, he welcomed the rest. When children brought him shells from the beach, he treasured each gift as precious. As Leonard embraced what life offered, more flowed his way naturally. His home became a gathering place for community meals. His garden flourished with seeds given by neighbors, and his days filled with unexpected joys. Without striving or struggling, he discovered that acceptance magnetizes abundance. His story reveals a fundamental truth. Openness multiplies. Each time you allow yourself to receive, whether it's a compliment, assistance, or unexpected support, you strengthen your connection to the infinite flow of good that seeks expression through your life. The ancient practice of receiving. Find a quiet moment and place your hands palm up on your lap. Feel the subtle energy flowing through your open palms. Breathe deeply and whisper, "I open myself to receive all that the universe offers." Throughout your day, notice opportunities to accept support, help, and abundance. When resistance arises, return to this posture of receptivity, allowing life's gifts to flow freely into your experience. Chapter 16. Emotional Honesty. Years of guarding her heart had left Vera surrounded by walls of her own making. In her grand house filled with luxuries, she maintained a careful mask of contentment while an ocean of unnamed emotions swirled beneath the surface. "I am fine," became her constant refrain, even as tears threatened to break through her careful composure. With each denial, the distance between her true self and her projected image grew wider, until the very act of receiving became impossible. For how can abundance flow into a vessel sealed against itself? The law of attraction responds to authenticity, not pretense. When you deny your true feelings, you create resistance to the very experiences you wish to attract. Your emotions are not obstacles to be overcome, but messengers carrying wisdom. Each feeling, whether deemed positive or negative, serves as a guide toward alignment. The path of manifestation flows through honesty with yourself. Your capacity to receive expands in direct proportion to your willingness to acknowledge what truly moves within you. The ancient masters understood that transformation begins with acceptance, not of what you wish to feel, but of what already exists in your heart. In the quiet of his modest workshop, Howard crafted beautiful furniture with steady hands and an open heart. Unlike Vera, he had learned to name his emotions as they arose. "Today I feel uncertain," he would acknowledge when doubt visited. "This moment holds sadness," he would recognize when grief touched him. "Joy fills me now," he would declare when delight sparkled through his being. As Howard honored each feeling without judgment, something remarkable occurred. The very act of naming his emotions allowed them to flow naturally, like a stream finding its course. His authenticity became a magnet, drawing others who sensed in him a safe harbor for their own truth. Clients sought not just his craftsmanship, but his presence. Resources appeared when needed. Opportunities unfolded with natural grace. The wisdom reveals itself. What you can name, you can embrace. What you can embrace, you can transform. Your willingness to be honest with yourself opens channels through which abundance naturally flows. Ancient practice of inner truth. Find a quiet moment each day to place your hand upon your heart. Without trying to change anything, simply ask, "What am I feeling now?" Let the answer arise without judgment. Name the emotion with gentle precision. Feel its texture, its temperature, its movement within you. As you acknowledge each feeling, notice how acceptance creates space for new possibilities to enter. This practice of emotional honesty becomes your bridge to receiving. Chapter 17. Natural Timing. In a village perched between mountains, there lived a weaver named Esther, who yearned to fulfill her dream of opening her own textile shop. Each morning she would rush to the marketplace, frantically searching for opportunities, pushing conversations with merchants, and forcing connections that weren't yet ripe. Her eagerness caused potential partners to step back, sensing her desperation. The more she chased, the further her dreams seemed to drift. The universe speaks in the language of organic timing. When you align with its natural rhythm, life unfolds with an effortless grace that no amount of forcing can match. Your role is not to make things happen, but to remain in such perfect alignment that timing becomes irrelevant. Within every seed lies encoded the exact moment of its blossoming. No amount of willing can cause it to flower before its time. Yet the seed never doubts. It rests in complete assurance, knowing the sun will warm it, the rain will nourish it, and its opening will occur at precisely the right instant. This same wisdom flows through your desires. Each intention you plant carries within it the perfect timing of its manifestation. Your task is not to force the bud open, but to maintain the fertile conditions of expectancy, while allowing the natural process to unfold. There lived a potter named Raymond, who understood this truth. He crafted his vessels with patience, knowing that clay has its own timing. He never rushed the drying or firing process, recognizing that perfection emerges through allowing rather than forcing. One day, a merchant from a distant city visited his workshop, drawn by the quality of his work. This single encounter opened pathways Raymond could never have planned, bringing his creations to palaces he had never imagined reaching. The difference between Raymond and Esther was not in their worthiness or even their skill. It was in their relationship with timing. While Esther tried to control the when, Raymond aligned with the natural flow of life's unfolding. Your dreams carry their own divine timing. When you release the need to control when they manifest, you enter a state of allowing that actually accelerates their arrival. This is not passive waiting, but active alignment with the perfect orchestration of universal forces. The ancient practice of present alignment. Find a quiet space and settle into your body. Breathe deeply and feel the moment exactly as it is. With each breath, release the urgency to make things happen. Simply rest in the knowing that right timing is already in motion. Let your body soften into trust, allowing life to unfold in its perfect sequence. Practice this alignment daily, remembering that nature never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. Chapter 18. Inner Authority. A young woman named Pearl lived at the edge of a bustling trading port. Each morning she would seek counsel from every merchant, sailor, and traveler who passed through, asking their opinion on which ventures to pursue, which paths to take, which decisions to make. Though wisdom flowed freely from many mouths, the more advice she gathered, the more confused she became, until her life became a tapestry woven from others' expectations rather than her own knowing. The power you seek has always resided within. When you turn outward for validation, you disconnect from the infinite wisdom that flows through your being. External approval is but a pale reflection of the authority that already lives in your heart. The universe speaks directly through your inner knowing, requiring no intermediary to translate its guidance. This truth lies at the core of all manifestation. Your relationship with yourself determines your relationship with all of existence. When you trust your inner voice above all others, the universe mirrors that trust back to you in the form of aligned circumstances and harmonious outcomes. Your certainty becomes the foundation upon which reality builds itself. What others think of your path matters far less than what you know to be true. Their opinions, however well-intentioned, can never access the deep current of knowing that runs through your own soul. When you learn to hear and honor this inner voice, external validation becomes unnecessary, and true power returns to its rightful place within you. In a distant valley lived a farmer named Douglas, who discovered this truth through simple observation. While others anxiously watched weather patterns and consulted almanacs, Douglas listened to an inner rhythm that guided when to plant and when to harvest. His neighbors called him foolish when he planted during an unconventional season, yet his crops flourished beyond explanation. He had learned to trust the quiet voice within that spoke with unwavering certainty. Douglas never explained his methods or defended his choices. He simply moved in accordance with his inner knowing, and nature itself seemed to reorganize around his quiet confidence. His success arose not from superior knowledge or skill, but from his unwavering trust in his own inner guidance. The difference between Pearl and Douglas lay not in their capabilities but in their source of authority. While Pearl scattered her power by seeking external validation, Douglas gathered his power by trusting his inner wisdom. Your inner voice speaks with perfect clarity when you stop drowning it out with others' opinions. The guidance you seek has never been elsewhere. It has simply waited for you to turn inward and listen. The practice of inner listening. Find a peaceful moment and close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart and breathe slowly. With each breath, turn your attention away from external voices and toward the quiet wisdom within. Let questions arise naturally and notice the subtle knowing that emerges in response. Trust the first gentle answer that surfaces. This is your inner authority speaking, and it requires no validation beyond your recognition. Chapter 19. Subtle Gratitude. At the town square, Nora proclaimed her gratitude with grand gestures, announcing to all who would listen how blessed she felt. She hung gratitude journals on her walls, spoke affirmations into her mirror, and declared her thankfulness at every gathering. Yet, beneath the performance, an emptiness lingered. Her words, though earnest, seemed to echo without resonance. When you align with genuine gratitude, it requires no announcement. The frequency of appreciation flows as naturally as breath, transforming your entire field of energy. This subtle current of thankfulness carries more power than all the proclamations combined. True gratitude is not a practice to perfect, but a frequency to embody. The universe responds not to the volume of your thanks, but to the depth of your feeling. When gratitude becomes your natural state rather than a ritual to perform, you enter a flow of continuous receiving. This is the forgotten wisdom. Appreciation is not something you do, but something you become. In a small cottage at the edge of the same town lived Victor, who rarely spoke of his blessings, yet his quiet contentment radiated from within, touching everything around him. As he tended his garden, a gentle smile played across his face. When he shared his harvest with neighbors, his eyes held a warmth that spoke volumes. Without a word, his presence emanated pure appreciation. Soon, Victor's garden yielded more abundance than he could have imagined. Opportunities appeared effortlessly, and kindness returned to him multiplied. His gratitude, though unspoken, created a magnetic field that attracted more reasons to be grateful. This story mirrors the truth about authentic appreciation. When thankfulness flows from your being rather than your lips, it alters the very fabric of your reality. The quietest thank you, felt deeply in your heart, ripples further than the loudest proclamation. Practice. Close your eyes and let your attention rest in your heart. Without words, simply feel appreciation for 3 breaths. Notice how this silent gratitude creates a gentle expansion in your chest. Throughout your day, return to this wordless thank you, letting it resonate through your being. This is not a ritual to perfect, but a remembrance of your natural state. Chapter 20. Stabilizing the Shift. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, a woman named Olive sold flowers. Each morning she arranged her blooms with meticulous care, creating the same beautiful patterns day after day. Some questioned her unchanging routine, suggesting she try new displays to attract more customers. Yet Olive knew a truth beyond their understanding. Consistency held a hidden power. As the seasons turned, something remarkable unfolded. Her steady presence became a beacon, drawing people not just to her flowers, but to the peace that surrounded her stall. The very air seemed charged with possibility, as if her unwavering rhythm had opened a channel through which abundance could flow. When you maintain alignment with truth, you create a stable foundation from which all transformation emerges. Change does not arise from constant upheaval, but from sustained coherence with what resonates deeply. The universe responds not to sporadic bursts of energy, but to the steady pulse of committed presence. This ancient wisdom reveals itself in the natural world. A tree grows not through dramatic leaps, but through countless days of quietly turning toward the sun. Its strength comes not from dramatic gestures, but from patient persistence. So, too, does your reality stabilize around what you consistently embody. Consider how water shapes stone not through force, but through faithful presence. Each drop alone seems insignificant, yet the accumulated power of countless drops transforms the very foundation of mountains. Your aligned thoughts and feelings work in the same way, gradually reshaping the landscape of your experience through devoted practice. In a small village by the sea, Martin lived this truth without naming it. He rose each dawn to tend his garden, spoke kindly to all he met, and ended each day in quiet gratitude. He never questioned whether his life would unfold well. He simply lived as though it already had. As years passed, his reality grew to mirror his inner state with such precision that visitors often remarked on the harmony that seemed to pervade his entire existence. Martin's story illuminates how living in alignment becomes its own reward. The outer world naturally arranges itself around your inner state when that state remains steady. This is not about maintaining perfect thoughts or feelings, but about returning again and again to what you know to be true. Integration occurs not through force, but through gentle persistence. As you continue to embody the shift in consciousness, reality has no choice but to reflect your deepening alignment. The practice becomes not something you do, but something you are. Practice. For the next 7 days, choose one aligned state, perhaps peace, appreciation, or trust, and live from that place regardless of circumstances. Don't announce it or effort toward it. Simply be it, quietly and consistently. Let your steady embodiment become the bridge through which new realities emerge. Part 3. The Mastery. Chapter 21. Identity Completed. In a village nestled among ancient hills, Florence tended to her daily tasks with a quiet certainty that needed no validation. While others rushed to prove their worth, she moved through life with an ease that seemed to arise from somewhere deeper than mere confidence. Those who crossed her path often found themselves slowing down, as if drawn into the field of stillness that surrounded her. The universe responds not to what you seek to become, but to what you recognize you already are. When you rest in self-knowing, life arranges itself to mirror this inner completion. No striving is necessary, for what you are seeking is what is seeking. This truth reveals itself through the natural order. A flower does not question its right to bloom, nor does a river doubt its path to the sea. Your essence operates with this same unwavering certainty when you allow yourself to simply be. In the heart of a great city, Albert walked through crowded streets with the same peaceful presence he carried in solitude. His mastery showed not in grand gestures, but in the way he remained unmoved by the chaos around him. People found themselves drawn to him, though he made no effort to attract attention. His very being seemed to radiate a message. Completion requires no external confirmation. The power of self-knowing lies not in what you do, but in how fully you allow yourself to be. When you cease trying to become, you discover you have always been. This recognition creates a resonance that naturally attracts corresponding circumstances. Consider how the moon never strains to prove its luminosity. It simply shines. Its light is not a doing, but a being, an expression of its inherent nature. So too does your authentic presence radiate without effort when you rest in what you are. Albert's way of being demonstrated this truth. He never spoke of his accomplishments or sought to convince others of his worth. Yet his calm presence acted as a mirror, reflecting to others their own potential for self-realization. Those who spent time with him often discovered a similar quietude within themselves, not through any teaching he offered, but through the simple power of his being. This kind of presence emerges not from accumulation, but from recognition. It is the natural state that reveals itself when you cease trying to become something other than what you are. The universe responds not to your efforts, but to your essence. Ancient practice of being. Each morning for the next 7 days, Sit quietly for a few moments before beginning your day. Rather than attempting to change or improve yourself, simply rest in the awareness of your own presence. Notice how this state of being requires no effort, no striving, no becoming. Let this recognition of your essential nature be the foundation from which all action naturally flows. Chapter 22. Creation as Response. In a small village nestled among ancient hills, Jean spent her days watching for signs from life. Each morning, she would peer out her window, searching the horizon for messages, waiting for the world to show her the way forward. Day after day, she waited for circumstances to shift, for opportunities to appear, for fortune to smile upon her path. Yet the more intently she watched, the more static everything seemed to become. The universe operates through resonance, not through observation, like calls to like across the vast expanse of creation, drawing together experiences that match in tone and texture. Your outer world responds not to your careful watching, but to your inner frequency, the subtle vibration of your being that broadcasts ceaselessly into the field of all possibility. When you understand this principle deeply, you recognize that life is not withholding its response. It is responding perfectly to your current state of being. Every circumstance that surrounds you is a precise reflection of your inner atmosphere. The key lies not in waiting for change, but in becoming the change you wish to see reflected. Russell discovered this truth one ordinary afternoon while tending his garden. For months his business had felt stagnant, resistant to all his efforts to expand. That day, as he noticed how his flowers responded to water and light, he realized a simple truth. They were merely reflecting the nurturing they received. In that moment, he shifted his attention from his external circumstances to his internal state. Rather than pushing against what was, he cultivated a feeling of natural growth within himself. Within weeks, without any forceful action on his part, new opportunities began appearing in his business. Clients who had been silent for months suddenly reached out. Projects that had been stuck started flowing again. The outer world had begun reflecting his adjusted inner state with perfect precision. This principle reveals itself in every aspect of life. Your relationships mirror your relationship with yourself. Your prosperity reflects your inner sense of abundance. Your experiences echo your expectations. The world is not happening to you. It is responding through you. To shift your experience, shift your state. The universe's response is automatic and inevitable, like an echo returning your own voice. You need not wait for life to change. You are the change you have been waiting for. The sacred practice. Find a quiet moment each day to tune your inner tone. Close your eyes and feel the quality of your current emotional state. Without trying to change anything, simply notice its texture and resonance. Then, gently adjust this inner atmosphere, like turning the dial on a radio, until you feel alignment with what you wish to experience. Let this new frequency settle into your being. The outer world will respond accordingly, not because you are forcing it, but because you have changed what you are broadcasting into the field of creation. Chapter 23. Effortless Flow. In the quiet hills beyond the city walls, there lived a woman named Hazel, who believed she must grasp every moment tightly. Each morning, she would rise before dawn, clutching lists of tasks and desires, Her fingers pressed so firmly against her plans that they left marks upon the parchment. She held her dreams with such intensity that they began to wither beneath her touch, like delicate flowers crushed by two eager hands. The universal law whispers a gentler truth. Creation flows not from force, but from allowance. When you release your grip on outcomes, you enter the natural current of manifestation. This is not passive resignation, but active trust, a recognition that the universe responds most gracefully to those who have learned to dance with its rhythms rather than impose their will upon them. The law of attraction operates through resonance, not through demand. Like a stream finding its path downhill, your desires manifest most effectively when you allow them to follow their natural course. Your role is not to carve the channel, but to clear the way for what already seeks expression through you. In a village by the sea lived Patrick, who moved through life like water flowing around stones. He never pushed against circumstances, but instead found the spaces where movement was possible. When others rushed frantically toward their goals, he smiled and adjusted his sails to catch the prevailing wind. His prosperity came not from forcing doors open, but from recognizing which ones were already opening to welcome him. One autumn morning, as Patrick walked along the shore, a merchant vessel struggled against the tide to reach the harbor. The crew strained at the oars, fighting the water's natural flow. Patrick observed how a small fishing boat, working with the same tide, easily glided into port. That evening, the merchant captain found Patrick and asked about the local waters. "The harbor welcomes those who understand its moods," Patrick said simply. And in those words lay a profound truth about all of life's manifestations. This ancient wisdom speaks directly to you now. Notice how often struggle arises from resistance to what is already in motion. Feel how your energy shifts when you release the need to control every detail. The universe responds not to your effort, but to your alignment. The practice. Sit quietly for a few moments each day, hands resting palms up in your lap. Feel the subtle energies moving through your body, your breath, your heartbeat, the gentle shift of muscles and tissues. Don't try to direct these movements. Simply allow them to flow naturally. As you attune to this internal dance, extend your awareness to the larger movements of your life. Where can you release control? Where might you allow life to carry you forward? Let this feeling of natural movement guide your actions throughout the day. Chapter 24. Conscious Allowing. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, Beatrice arranged and rearranged her herb stall, constantly adjusting the placement of each bundle and jar. From dawn until dusk, she meticulously controlled every detail, believing that only through precise management could harmony emerge. Yet, despite her vigilant efforts, customers seemed to pass by, drawn instead to the seemingly chaotic but vibrant stalls nearby. The universe speaks through the natural flow of life itself. When you release the grip of control, you open yourself to a greater intelligence that has orchestrated the dance of creation since time immemorial. Your role is not to direct, but to align, not to fix, but to allow. The habit of correction stems from a deep misunderstanding that life must be managed into perfection. Yet perfection already exists in the natural unfolding of each moment. When you cease trying to improve what is, you discover the inherent wholeness waiting beneath the surface of your striving. This truth reveals itself in layers. First comes the recognition that your attempts to control often create the very resistance you seek to overcome. Then emerges the understanding that life itself carries an intelligence far beyond the reach of conscious manipulation. Finally arrives the liberation of allowing everything to be as it is. In a small garden at the edge of town, Glenn tended to his flowers with an unusual approach. Rather than fighting against weeds or forcing blooms, he simply listened to the wisdom of the garden itself. Where others saw disorder, he recognized nature's perfect balance. His garden flourished not through dominance, but through partnership, each plant finding its place in the greater harmony. Glenn's garden became known throughout the region, not for its manicured perfection, but for its vibrant aliveness. Visitors would ask his secret, expecting complex techniques or special formulas. He would smile and say, "I simply stopped believing I knew better than the flowers." His story mirrors the fundamental truth, that life knows how to live. Your role is not to direct the river, but to flow with its current. When you release the need to control every outcome, you align with a power greater than your own planning. The practice. Rest quietly for a moment and notice where you're holding tension, in your thoughts, your emotions, or your body. With each breath, release one layer of control. Don't try to fix or change anything. Simply allow everything to be exactly as it is. Feel how this soft permission creates space for natural harmony to emerge. This is not an exercise in passivity, but in trust. Trust in the inherent wisdom that moves through all things. Chapter 25. The Quiet Power. In a world filled with endless chatter, Winifred discovered a profound truth. For years, she had believed her influence came through words, carefully crafting speeches and arguments to shape the world around her. Yet as seasons passed, she noticed something remarkable. The moments of greatest impact arose not from what she said, but from the spaces between her words. When you release the need to fill every moment with sound, you tap into a deeper current of creation. Silence is not the absence of power, but its purest expression. Within stillness lies a magnetic force that draws forth understanding far beyond what words can convey. The universe operates through subtle frequencies that only become audible when mental noise subsides. As you learn to rest in quietude, you discover that influence flows not from volume, but from resonance. Your presence speaks more clearly than any carefully constructed phrase. This is not about suppressing expression, but about finding its true source. When words arise from silence rather than habit, they carry the weight of authentic power. Each utterance becomes a ripple in the field of infinite possibility, born from the depths rather than skimming the surface. Clarence, a village elder, embodied this wisdom without ever speaking of it. In council meetings, others would debate passionately while he sat in contemplative silence. When he finally spoke, often just a few words, the room would still. His quiet presence carried more authority than the loudest voice. Over time, people began seeking him out not for advice but for his silence. They discovered that in his presence, their own inner wisdom emerged more clearly. Without saying a word, he helped others find their truth simply by holding space for silence to speak. This power of presence transcends technique or strategy. It arises naturally when you trust the eloquence of silence. Like a still pond reflecting the sky, Your quiet awareness becomes a mirror in which others glimpse their own depth. The practice. Find a comfortable space and simply sit in silence for several minutes. Don't try to achieve anything or reach any particular state. Notice how wisdom naturally emerges when you stop filling the space with words. Let silence teach you its own language. Chapter 26. Alignment as Lifestyle. In a quiet corner of her garden, Hattie sat cross-legged beneath the morning sun, attempting to align with universal forces. Like many, she had studied spiritual principles, attended workshops, and collected inspirational quotes. Yet her practice remained sporadic, rising with enthusiasm only to fade when life grew busy. The universe responds not to occasional alignment, but to consistent resonance. Just as a musician cannot master an instrument through sporadic practice, the art of manifestation requires daily attunement. Your energy field becomes a reliable transmitter only through regular cultivation. When you approach spiritual practice as something separate from daily life, you create an artificial division that weakens your creative power. The law of attraction isn't a technique to apply occasionally, but a natural principle operating continuously. Every moment either strengthens or dilutes your signal to the universe. Think of your relationship with these principles as you would breathing, not something you do sometimes, but a constant exchange with life itself. Your state of being broadcasts ceaselessly, whether you're conscious of it or not. The question isn't whether to practice, but whether to practice with awareness. Oscar, a simple gardener, never spoke of spiritual laws or manifestation techniques, yet his life flowed with remarkable grace. Each morning, he tended his plants with the same peaceful presence he brought to every task. His alignment wasn't something he did, but something he was. People often remarked on how fortune seemed to favor Oscar, how his gardens thrived, how opportunities found him easily, how joy seemed to follow in his wake. But those who looked closer saw that these weren't random blessings. They were the natural reflection of his consistent state of being. What appeared as luck to others was simply the universe responding to his steady signal. He hadn't mastered techniques. He had become the frequency he wished to experience. His life demonstrated that true power lies not in perfect practice, but in devoted presence. The depth of your transformation correlates directly with the consistency of your alignment. When you live these principles rather than merely visiting them, reality has no choice but to mirror your sustained frequency. Each steady day builds upon the last, creating a momentum that becomes effortless. Practice. Take one principle you've learned and weave it intentionally through your entire day. Whether washing dishes, commuting to work, or having conversations, maintain conscious alignment with this truth. Notice how life responds differently when you stop treating alignment as an event and start embodying it as a way of being. Chapter 27. Inner Wealth. In an ancient marketplace bustled Ivy, a merchant known for her constant pursuit of more. Each morning she counted her coins, each evening she tallied her wares, yet contentment eluded her grasp. Though her shelves overflowed with precious silks and rare spices, her heart remained empty, echoing with whispers of not enough. The universe speaks through patterns, and your relationship with abundance mirrors Ivy's eternal chase. When you seek wealth as something to capture and contain, it becomes like water slipping through cupped hands. The tighter you grasp, the more it escapes your hold. True abundance flows not from external acquisition, but from the recognition of the wealth already present within your being. It is a frequency, a vibration of completeness that emanates from your core. When you align with this inner state of sufficiency, the outer world can only respond in kind. Consider how a flower does not strain to attract sunlight. It naturally opens to receive what is already streaming toward it. Similarly, abundance requires no force, only alignment with its ever-present nature. Your task is not to create wealth, but to tune yourself to its frequency. In a quiet village lived Felix, a potter whose simple workshop contained little more than clay and basic tools. Yet, as his hands shaped vessels each day, his heart overflowed with gratitude for the earth's gifts, the air in his lungs, the strength in his fingers. He felt rich in his being, complete in his craft. Gradually, without seeking it, Felix's genuine contentment drew others to his door. His pottery became sought after, not for its perfection, but for the peace it seemed to carry. His workshop expanded naturally, prosperity flowing as easily as the clay took shape beneath his knowing hands. Felix's story reflects a fundamental truth. When you feel wealthy in spirit, material abundance aligns with that inner state. His wealth grew not from desperate seeking, but from the natural expansion of one who knows their inherent value. The secret lies in reversing the common approach. Instead of accumulating to feel abundant to naturally attract accumulation. Your inner state of sufficiency becomes the magnet that draws corresponding circumstances. Practice. Find a quiet moment each day to sit in stillness. Place your hands on your heart and breathe deeply into the sensation of completeness. Feel the richness of being alive, the abundance of breath, thought, and awareness. Let this feeling of inner wealth expand until it fills your entire being. Notice how this state begins to color your perception and attract corresponding experiences. Your practice is not to create abundance, but to recognize it as your natural state. Chapter 28. Embodied Knowing. In a bustling trading post, Louise spent endless hours studying scrolls of commerce and wealth. Her chambers overflowed with ancient texts about prosperity, yet abundance remained elusive. Each night, she would pore over new manuscripts, believing that somewhere within those pages lay the secret to untold riches. The truth whispers through your cells long before your mind grasps its meaning. Wealth does not arrive through intellectual understanding, but through the body's natural recognition of its inherent abundance. When you chase knowledge externally, you overlook the wisdom already flowing through your veins. Your physical form knows the frequency of prosperity. It resonates with abundance naturally, just as your lungs know how to breathe and your heart knows how to beat. The sensation of wealth, the feeling of having more than enough, lives not in your thoughts, but in your tissues, your bones, your blood. This knowing manifests as a deep sense of sufficiency, a cellular recognition that you are supported by the vast resources of the universe. It expresses as relaxation in your shoulders, expansion in your chest, warmth in your solar plexus. These bodily signals speak the truth your mind often questions. Bernard, a simple gardener, understood this instinctively. He never studied wealth, yet abundance followed him naturally. When asked his secret, he would simply place a hand over his heart and smile. "My body tells me what to plant and when to harvest," he would say. "I feel when the soil is ready, when the seeds want water, when the fruits are ripe for picking." His prosperity flowed not from strategy, but from listening to the wisdom in his flesh. The land responded to his attunement, yielding harvests that exceeded all expectations. His wealth emerged from trusting the intelligence that moved through his hands. Your body holds this same wisdom. It knows when to advance and when to wait, when to give and when to receive. The sensation of rightness in your chest, the feeling of expansion in your belly. These are your true guides to abundance. When you trust these subtle signals, life responds with increasing prosperity. Your physical form broadcasts a frequency of wealth that the universe naturally mirrors. This is not metaphor, but physics. Resonance calling to resonance. Abundance recognizing itself through you. Ancient practice. Find a quiet moment and place your hand on your solar plexus. Breathe deeply and notice the sensations that arise. Let your attention rest in your body rather than your thoughts. As you move through your day, pause regularly to check these physical signals. Trust what your flesh knows about timing, opportunity, and abundance. Your body is your most reliable compass toward wealth. Chapter 29. The Ongoing Shift. In a quiet valley, Evelyn sat beneath an ancient oak tree, marking days in her journal until her anticipated moment of complete enlightenment. She tracked her spiritual progress meticulously, believing that one morning she would wake up fully transformed, never to struggle again. Yet, with each sunrise, she found herself still waiting for that final achievement. You too may recognize this yearning for completion, this desire to arrive at some distant shore where all becoming ceases. Yet the wisdom whispers otherwise. There is no final destination in the infinite dance of expansion. What appears as an endpoint is merely a threshold into deeper understanding. The law of attraction flows as an eternal river, not a mountain to be conquered. Each manifestation opens into new possibilities. Each realization births fresh questions. This is not evidence of lack, but the very nature of consciousness itself, an endless unfoldment of greater awareness. When you release the need to arrive, you discover that you are already here, participating in the boundless movement of life. Your evolution continues not because you are incomplete, but because expansion is the natural expression of consciousness. Like a flower that blooms again and again, you are designed for perpetual renewal. Simon, a humble gardener, understood this instinctively. He never spoke of mastery or enlightenment, yet his presence carried a profound peace. Each morning he tended his plants with the same gentle attention, knowing that growth never truly ends. The vegetables ripened in their season, the flowers opened and closed, and Simon moved in harmony with these cycles without requiring them to cease. His contentment arose not from reaching some imagined pinnacle, but from embracing the eternal dance of becoming. He discovered that true mastery lies not in arriving, but in flowing gracefully with life's continuous movement. This teaching invites you to release the expectation of a final state. Your journey unfolds as naturally as breath, each insight leading to deeper understanding, each manifestation opening new horizons. You need not strain toward completion when you recognize that you are already whole within the infinite dance. Practice. Find a quiet moment and settle into your breath. Feel the subtle movements of life flowing through you, the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the steady rhythm of your heart. Without trying to change anything, simply welcome whatever arises. Notice how life continues its dance of renewal, moment by moment. Let this be your meditation, not to reach an end, but to move in harmony with the eternal flow of becoming. Chapter 30. Living the Signal. Through the open windows of a seaside cafe, the aroma of fresh bread mingles with salt air. Alex moves through his morning with such natural grace that most overlook the profound impact of his presence. He serves coffee, arranges flowers, and greets each person with genuine warmth, not as practiced gestures, but as the natural expression of his aligned state. What flows through Alex is not technique, but truth. His alignment requires no announcement, no spiritual declarations. It simply is. And in that simple being, something shifts in the atmosphere around him. Customers leave more peaceful than they arrived. Conflicts soften before reaching full form. Even plants seem to grow more vibrantly in his presence. The law of attraction operates through resonance rather than effort. When you embody alignment fully, your very presence becomes a tuning fork, silently inviting everything around you into harmony. This is not about doing good or trying to influence others. It is the natural consequence of your inner state. Your energy field extends far beyond your physical form. Like ripples on a pond, your state of being touches shores you cannot see. This is why forcing change proves less effective than simply holding the frequency of what you wish to create. Your alignment is your contribution. Frederick first noticed this phenomenon while working alongside Alex. The usual workplace tensions that had always seemed inevitable simply dissolved without discussion. Projects flowed more smoothly, creativity flourished, and even the most challenging personalities found their way to cooperation. No one could quite explain the change, yet all felt it. This is the power of embodied alignment. It works through presence rather than prescription. You need not fix or change others. Your task is simply to maintain your own coherence. The rest unfolds naturally, like music finding its rhythm. When you live in alignment, your very being becomes a blessing to others, not through conscious effort or intention, but through the simple truth that energy attracts its own resonance. Your peace calls forth peace in others. Your clarity invites clarity. Your joy awakens joy. Ancient practice of silent alignment. Find a comfortable position and close your eyes. Let your breath settle into its natural rhythm. Rather than trying to change anything, simply notice the quality of your own presence. Feel the subtle field of energy that surrounds your body. Without effort or strain, allow yourself to rest in clear, open awareness. Maintain this state as you move through your day, letting your aligned presence touch everything naturally. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. The ultimate shift reveals itself not as an achievement to pursue, but as a recognition of what already is. Through these pages, you have not learned new techniques, but remembered ancient truths that your soul has always known. The law of attraction was never a force to master, but rather the natural expression of your aligned state of being. As this wisdom settles into your bones, notice how striving begins to soften. The need to make things happen dissolves into a gentle allowing. Your presence becomes enough, not as a passive surrender, but as an active participation in the unfolding of life itself. Creation flows through coherence rather than control. When you cease pushing against what is, reality responds with an effortless reorganization around your clear signal. This is not about perfecting yourself or achieving some idealized state. It is about releasing the resistance that delayed your natural expression. The shift that has begun within you continues not as a practice to maintain, but as a way of being to remember. Your alignment is not a destination to reach, but a presence to embody. As you rest in this truth, watch how life mirrors your inner atmosphere without effort or force. You need not chase manifestation or strain toward outcomes. Your task is simply to remain present with what feels true within you. In that presence, everything that belongs in your experience finds its way naturally. The universe requires no convincing, only your willingness to stay aligned with your own knowing. This recognition now lives in you as a quiet certainty. The power was never in the words, but in the resonance they awakened. Let this be enough. Your shift continues, not as something to complete, but as life itself moving through your clear awareness.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.